Andersonville by Zach Neary, Chris Quasi, Steve Famularo, Tom Gibbons, and Larry Shaw.
Andersonville Prison, an excerpt from the novel Andersonville. The purpose is to show the negative side of Andersonville Prison, which was one of the most notorious military prisons during the Civil War, through their cruel treatments to prisoners. The diction is professional and the syntax is very complex. The similarities among the diction and syntax is to show and demonstrate the negative sides of Andersonville. The passage is about development and construction of Andersonville Prison. The characters are Clara Barton, the founder of American Red Cross, Doris Atwater, a former prisoner assigned as a parole to keep burial records for prison officials, and Captain Henry Wirtz was arrested and charged with conspiring to impair and injure health and destroy the lives of federal prisoners. The passage is only one-sided because it only depicts the life negatively inside the prison. The passage is created according to the structuring process of Andersonville Prison. The cruel conditions such as disease, malnutrition, overcrowding, or exposure, and that people were buried in shallow trenches, shoulder to shoulder in a crude cemetery near the prison, was very shocking.
The results of Andersonville. How would government deal with Andersonville after the Civil War? Make me think about the cruel background of the Civil War. I expect the situation will be better through people's consistent efforts after the Civil War. Clara Barton and Doris Atwater are the characters who fight for the prisoners. They represented the justice side. Captain Henry Wirtz represents the bad side who impair and injure the health and destroy the lives of federal prisoners. The conflict is between the benefits of the prisoners, the negative side of Andersonville prison. We cannot deny that because of the Civil War, Andersonville existed for more space for prisoners. Here is an excerpt of Tramp, Tramp, Tramp by George F. Root. Here is an excerpt of Tramp, Tramp, Tramp by George F. Root.
Tramp, tramp, tramp. The subject of the song is to cheer up the captured soldiers. The setting taking place in the song is within the horrible confines within the prison. The tone is homesick and hopeful that one day they will be free. The purpose is to tell the families what it was like on the battlefront and how life is like for them in prison. The diction and syntax use very poetic lines and repetition of tramp to demonstrate an onomatopoeia. The use of the descriptive words is very beneficial in portraying a scene of life in prison. The overlapping themes within the piece are the description of some extent of the horrors in jail and life during the time of the war.
They are composed lyrics of a song. It is interesting how they describe the perspective of life in the jail cell. It portrays a vivid description of what a prisoner's life is like during the Civil War. Now, it can ask us to pretend for a moment what life is like for a prisoner's perspective. They can tell us society was cruel at this day and age. Prisoners and their jail comrades. The prisoners are homesick and despise life in the jail cell. The themes are sadness and despair. The main causes of the Civil War were states' rights and slavery and the territories. The historical impact of the Civil War was that it was brought back together as a whole.
A Cry from Andersonville Prison by William Comfort. The subject of the poem displayed a war-torn country. The setting was held in Fort Sumter, Andersonville Prison. The tone of the poem was demoralizing, depressing, miserable, despondent, and downhearted. The purpose of this poem is to demonstrate the hardships of disparity of the Union soldiers entrapped in the treacherous war camp. The audience of the poem were the Union soldiers imprisoned in Andersonville. The diction uses an old-fashioned writing and metaphors to depict the horrid life that took place in Andersonville. The syntax used in this poem is well-developed sentence structure to portray the miserable life of the soldiers. Both the hostile environment that the Union soldiers are imprisoned at Andersonville, the historical figures were the soldiers, the historical events were at Andersonville, and the events matter in personal lives of the characters because it is a view of the prison and the horrible experience within it, and the account is accurate due to its personal first-hand view and vivid description.
Yes, the theme of death and despair repeated throughout each piece of work. It is composed by first-hand accounts of the camp and what went on inside its gates. It colorfully depicts life in Andersonville. I see a harsh life for hundreds of unfortunate Union soldiers. Nothing surprises me about the unfair treatment in the prison. The poem asks us to think about how fortunate we are not to live through the hardships the soldiers went through. Things that have changed since the Civil War because we are now united with racial tolerance and separation. The characters in the poem are the soldiers imprisoned in the camp. They represent the thousands that died in the camps and the war. Conflicts include the harsh conditions and the unfair treatment of the captured soldiers. Conflict is resolved when the war ends. The theme of despair and death are repeated throughout the poem, and the South is not willing to cooperate with the North was the main conflict. This painting of Andersonville was painted by an ex-prisoner. It depicts the harsh and disappointing life of the prisoners during the camp.
Andersonville painting. The subject of the painting is the soldiers watching as people are abused and slowly dying for multiple reasons. The setting is within the prison itself. The tone is mostly negative and sad due to the fact that people are worked to death and torture. The audience is the people who are viewing the painting. Andersonville Prison itself is a historical place. The park has three main features: the National Prison War Museum, Historic Prison Site, and the National Ceremony Museum. Andersonville was one of the deadliest prison camps during the Civil War. The overlapping theme throughout the painting is the theme of death. The piece was painted from memory by an ex-prisoner from Andersonville. It's interesting how vivid and gory the picture looks, and it is just a free paint off of memory. I can only imagine seeing suffering people being tortured and killed left and right. The picture is in black and white, which is used to depict the painting. The conflicts within the painting is the manual labor being pushed onto these people's lives, though they are starving.
Andersonville, directed by John Frankenheimer. The film depicts the life of a young soldier named Josie who experiences the harsh life of imprisonment in Andersonville. The purpose of the film is to describe the unfair treatment of the Union soldiers during the Civil War era. The diction and syntax are expressed throughout well thought out dialogue and facial expressions to describe life in the camp. The generals and soldiers are well described and explained throughout the movie. The events that take place as are well revolved in the characters, with the background affecting the characters' personalities. The overlapping theme is the harsh treatment of the Union soldiers. The film is very well directed with constant visual effects and great acting. It really makes the audience feel as if they were being entered into the camp themselves. They want us to think about what we would have done and how we would have acted within the camp. Josie is a young prisoner inside the camp who must adapt to the new hardships. Patrick is a young boy who should not have to experience these sights at his young age. Dick explains the camp rules and regulations to the new prisoners. The conflicts of the personal inner beliefs and problems are well seen in the film. The themes and motives of the work are the Civil War and the toll it took on each of the soldiers. The main causes are unfair treatment of racism.